Welcome to the Intuitive Rising podcast. I'm your host, Amy Brooks. This is a podcast that invites you to remember who you are, return to yourself, and rise into your highest and best soul self. Every week, I will be sharing inspiring conversations about topics that hold keys to your awakening. My mission as an international evidential psychic medium, Reiki practitioner, and intuitive mentor is to help you rise into who you were born to be. Enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Intuitive Rising podcast. I am your host, Amy Brooks, and it is a pleasure to join you today. We are here for the September energy forecast. I've been feeling a lot of stuff. Then things have been coming up with client sessions, with my own card pulls, and I wanted to check with Spirit and see if there is some further themes and guidance around what I am feeling. And there sure is. So first off, I wanted to say happy September 2025. I hope everybody had a wonderful summer. I know we still are in summer season and we will be for another couple weeks. And a lot of us are kind of holding on with, everything because we don't want to move into the colder months. I myself love fall. It is my favorite time of year. And I feel like I kind of come alive, especially around middle of September and then in through the new year. Like that is my time of year. But I also have a deep appreciation for summer. And I am happy in the moment. I am back to work after a couple weeks of vacation, which was lovely. We did some staycation things with the kids and did some day trips and got acquainted with our home province a little bit more in a deeper way, and just kind of kicked back and enjoyed the moment. And there was a lot of sleep-ins. I do have mostly older kids now, so that's the beautiful benefit. And now they're back to school, and here we are, September. Okay, so we're going to start, as we always do, with the tarot, the oracle, and the soul's journey lesson card that aligns with the themes of this month. I'm going to reveal all that stuff to you, channel in the moment, and then also channel an animal messenger, a number support, as well as a color support for the month. And I do those kind of live and in the moment. I pull the cards ahead of time. Sometimes I take some notes about the cards, and I certainly have today about the tarot card. And I feel like I'm just ready to dive right in. Let's do that. So September 2025 energy forecast, let's get started. So as I was shuffling, this card popped out, like basically flew out of the card. We know, or out of the deck rather. We know that means that there's some extra oomph, some extra energy, kind of takes on a life of its own, so to speak. The card that comes up is the Five of Swords. Interestingly enough, too, as I opened the guidebook just to see if any like keywords popped out at me after I wrote down my notes, I went to open the book, and the page I naturally opened to was the Four of Swords, which is pretty darn close to the Five of Swords. But yeah, generally in that theme of swords energy. Swords, as we know, connected to the mind and to thinking. Okay, so this kind of feels like a mental month in a way. And I right off the bat am hearing about finding balance with that. So it feels like naturally a lot of our energy, a lot of our mindsets, our feelings, our thoughts that we're having, a lot of the experiences we're having and the interactions we're having with other people this month are going to be based heavily kind of in the mental, or at least have us feeling like we need to rely on the mental, or having us in our heads a little bit more than maybe we had been last month or the month before that. So there is this need to find focus. So we're going to be leaning a little bit unbalanced, I hear, in the mental side of things, and we need to find balance with that. Okay, so that's what comes through right away with the Five of Swords. I will share with you, and I'm going to sing for a moment, and I apologies in advance for that. But as soon as I pulled this card, before I even really looked at the card, I heard a song in my mind. I got goosebumps as I said that, which is interesting. It must It must be important. We know what goosebumps mean when we are saying something, hearing something, thinking something, seeing something. They are kind of a reverence. It's like a vibration of truth in our body. So pay attention in the future as you navigate your daily days with when you're kind of getting those goosebumps. Anyways, a song came in. It's one that probably a lot of you will know. It's kind of an oldie. It's been around for a long time. It's by the great Kenny Rogers, and it is The Gambler. So what I heard as I pulled this card was, you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. I'm reading off a page. I'm not really singing here. Know when to walk away and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. What the heck does that mean? What does that mean, friends? Well, what came through right away was there's this feeling of needing to kind of take something for face value in the moment. Like this feeling of like our minds wanting to run away with it a little bit, right? Or like kind of the energy of this. Okay, you got to know when to hold them. And you got to know when to fold them, when to walk away and when to run. That is telling us to pay close attention to our instincts. But if the guidance is, hey, you may have some tendencies this month to be a little bit too much in your head. When we're too much in our head, what do? We almost get into, we can catastrophize, right? We can overthink. We can isolate self, right? Because we often feel very alone in our minds and our thoughts. And we can, I keep hearing snowball effect, right? So we can kind of we can go down the rabbit hole, but not always in the good way, right? We can make things bigger than they are. Essentially, we can become a little bit more reactionary, and that's because we're almost more in a survival mode versus like how it is in the present moment. So there's guidance around trusting your instincts, but your physical instincts, right? Some of us may be really, really good at the intuitive piece, the mental intuitive piece, where we can really quite clearly or easily find the balance between, or being able to discern between what is ours and what isn't, or, okay, am I acting out a pattern? Am I really in my conditioning here? Or, is this justified? Some of us can figure that out quite quickly, and some of us aren't quite there all the time and able to do that. So the guidance that comes through is like, trust how your body feels in the moment, right? Your body is, yes, it's reactionary, but it's kind of like, this is what I'll say about this to kind of drive home my point, is that Spirit has taught me that you can easily discern what is intuition versus what is anxiety, say, because your intuition is usually the first thing that comes in, right? Your instinct, the first thing, one and done, is your intuition. It's the first thing you're going to feel or hear. What comes after, like the spiraling, the justification, the fear, the nerves, that's anxiety. It's like building upon something or making something what it isn't, because, and it's no fault of ours. Sometimes it's because of past experiences, because of our conditioning, because of, the trauma that we've had in the past. Makes total sense. But if you kind of stick to this one and done, your intuition is the first thing, it's much easier to discern, is this my intuition or is this my anxious thinking? Your body is very much based on intuition, the same as the mind, but the body is sometimes easier to read, right? You just get this immediate reaction to someone or to something, a knowing, right? This is a month, September is a month about knowing. It's a knowing month, but we can't just rely on the mental side of knowing, because our brain is, built upon, facts, right? And patterns, and it builds kind of neural pathways based on what's happened before in previous experiences. And it's like, it must be this because it was this before, right? Whereas the body is more in the now, and the body can say this, right? And so this month, Spirit wants you to get more into the practice of listening to your physical intuition, to your body, to your inner knowing. Your mind might be the thing that comes in afterwards and says, oh, this and this and this and this, and likes to spiral. Practice with the one and done principle. See what happens as you do that. So that's kind of like what I was getting from, when to hold them, when to fold them, when to walk away and run. Pay attention to your instincts, pay attention to your body this month. It will not steer you wrong. It will not steer you wrong. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. What that is telling me in this moment is, it's like hold your cards close, meaning it doesn't mean to like not share, not tell people how you feel or tell people what's up. It's not necessarily what that means. It's more about, let me stay with this for a moment. It's more about knowing that this month there's a tendency for us to lean into our mind, and that our mind likes to tell us things based on previous experiences or what we are predicting may happen. And it's a runaway train sometimes, and we know that. So it's about pausing. It's about taking a pause before you react. It's about responding versus reacting. It's about taking that moment. So you never count your money when you're sitting at the table. You don't need to, interesting, I'm hearing you don't need to feed the fire. Sometimes you don't need to, share something to prove a point, right? Sometimes it's better to just sit back and allow something to play out. Now, what I'll tell you is it feels like and this makes sense with this kind of tendency for a lot of us to be in our mental and in our patterns and in our conditioning this month. When that's the case, we are really leaning on survival instinct, right? And othering and them versus us. It makes us kind of hold the shield up when we are in that mode. And so if we have a tendency to potentially be playing that out this month, and others with us, it would make sense for our own higher selves to say, hey, this is this play that's happening this month. This is the chapter of the book. September's chapter is allowing you to take a moment to observe what's happening. Take a moment to observe what's at play here. Is this worth your time? Is it worth your energy? Do you need to defend yourself? Do you feel like you need to interject? It's a pick your battle kind of month. Okay, so let's see what else I wrote down. Conflict and competition potentially shows up, okay? Whether that's internal conflict and competition. Sometimes competition with self is a good thing. So long as we know the only real competition is with ourselves, and that, if we come from a place of loving versus of judgment of self, then we're all good. The winning, what I'm hearing is like a true win is to, be better in some way than who you were yesterday. That's all you're really needing to do. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone else or to, be a certain way because of somebody else. The only true competition is with self. And so just know that. And so a little bit of healthy competition might be in the mix this month. Maybe we're wanting to better something about ourselves. Maybe there's a focus on the body, on health. Maybe we are, and remember, we're coming from a place of love. We're not coming up from a place of I need to fix or something's wrong, but more of, how can I show my body more love? How can I improve my health? Without that label of fixing, that will go a long way, but some competition around that, healthy competition, right? Let's see how long I can go for a walk today versus yesterday. 30 seconds longer than yesterday. That's a win, right? That's kind of what's coming in about this competition piece. But you might find that with other people, like other people are pushing your buttons in some way, or other people may be like, you're pushing my buttons. And so you're being asked to kind of have this heads up so you have that observer kind of mode turned on right from the get-go. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna pan out for a moment. I'm going to step away from my survival mode of me versus them, and this person is coming at me. Um, which then, your body kind of gets in fight and flight, and then, you set off a chain of reaction that is more difficult to get into observer mode. So you're just kind of being asked to go, okay, this person is pushing my buttons. Why? Okay, great. But also, is this worth my time? Is this worth my energy? No. Okay, I'm just gonna bow out. We'll continue this conversation another day, or this isn't really something I want to discuss, and I don't need to defend myself. That comes up as major, so I feel like a lot of us are in this like self-improvement mode. Like that seems where our spirits, our souls are kind of wanting to do. We're in this time period of this year where we are wanting to refine, which is interesting to me because we're in Virgo season right now, and Virgo season is about refinement. It's like, how can I do this more efficiently? How can I do this with more ease? How can I streamline this? Okay. So if we think about that through the lens of like the drama, the competition, the conflict that might be stirring around us, if we take an observer look at the situation, we're like, okay, this is showing up in my life to show me where I need some growth, to show me where I can pick what is truly aligned with me. Like, is this really aligned with me or not? Is it worth my effort? Is it worth the fight? I feel like a lot of you are going to hear no this month. There's a lot of like unnecessary drama that pops into our life that we're just kind of shedding. It's not needed anymore. It's kind of like I'm seeing spirit show me a test, right? Like papers on a desk, like a teacher would have, and there's an A+ on it, right? So it's kind of like, look, we don't need the drama to teach us this anymore. We can go into observer mode. We do have the ability to have that awareness and to go, oh, I'm finding myself in a situation I don't need to be in. Oh, here I am. Gonna look at it, gonna respond and not react, gonna determine if this is worth my time or not. Then I'm gonna bow out, or I'm gonna engage if it is worth your time, if it is important. So that comes in a big way. Being mindful with words, I wrote down, pause before and respond. Be mindful with the tendency for yourself to be in here, to be potentially making something more than it is, right? Like maybe somebody says something to you and you interpret it to be kind of snippy, or you're like, what did they mean by that, right? Kind of what I'm hearing from spirit is more often than not, there's probably not a lot of ill intention in the thing that was said. It may just be the patterns that you have, the lens that you're looking at something that wants to have that to validate itself when really maybe you're reading into it. A lot of the times it's going to be that, and that is a hard pill to swallow. I get it, because I also can struggle with that at times where I'm like, okay, maybe that person actually didn't mean that at all. And I find that a lot with like online interactions as well, where, maybe somebody texts something and then a couple days go by and you're thinking, I think they're mad at me because, I interpreted that to mean this. But that in itself is a good thing to do and I'll explain. You having the awareness to say, I interpreted that to mean this. That leaves space for my interpretation could be incorrect, could not be aligned with the actual intentions of that person. There's some room there, right? For misinterpretation, for miscommunication. So be mindful of that. You'll do yourself a really big favor if you can. Be mindful about the words that you choose to say, but also how you are taking the words of others. All right. And it will also go a long way for you to just check in and be like, could you clarify what you mean by that, versus getting defensive, and taking a pause, just taking a pause. Lots of deep breaths this month is what I'm hearing. Okay. The illusion of separation comes up, and picking your battles. So, picking your battles, pretty self explanatory. Just a month that we may need to do that, right? Picking our battles with ourselves, picking our battles with others. Um, it's kind of like the tendency to the snowball effect, which Spirit brought up a little bit ago. When we're talking about the internal need to pick your battles, there are times when we might think something and then it snowballs. Maybe we are real. Good example. I'm really tired today. For the last 2 days, my 9-year-old has not slept very well. It's been up multiple times during the night. And we're also on back to school time, which means very early mornings, the alarm going off at 6:15. So we are not well rested around here. And so something that I spent some time talking to him about this morning when he was quite upset and not wanting to go to school was, hey, just because we have this one kind of like we're tired, we have this one kind of crappy experience, doesn't mean that the whole day also has to be crappy. We can have this crappy experience. We can be like, man, I got no sleep last night. I'm very tired, but I can choose to put one foot in front of the other and to say, okay, I'm going to be gentle with myself. I'm going to eat a nice breakfast. I'm going to give myself time to get to school or to work on time rather than running around like a chicken with our heads cut off, because that makes us feel more stressed, right? But that takes a moment, right? That takes a moment to pause. That's a good example of the energy of September. Maybe there's more of that with us as parents, right? Or with us as ourselves. Everybody's kind of back to the routine of September, and maybe we're kind of like out of sorts or a little bit stressed out about it. Or maybe there's a ton of traffic now that all the students are back in school, and we're like losing our minds as we are stuck in traffic. And we can get really upset about things like that. And it's okay to get upset. I'm certainly not going to sit here and say you can never get pissed off again. Get pissed off, but also know in the moment after you have your little meltdown, okay, this doesn't mean the rest of the day has to go to pot, right? I can turn this around. I can say some bad words in this moment, and then I can turn the day around. So just be mindful of that as well with yourself, with your interactions with your kids or your spouses or your friends and family or coworkers, okay? Just take a moment. The illusion of separation is just like the othering that can happen when we're really in our head, or when we take something really personal that maybe wasn't that personal. It's this kind of illusion that it's me versus you, us versus them, and that is an illusion, right? So be mindful of that as well. Let's move on from that tarot card. Thank you very much. Miss Five of Swords. Just quickly, I just want to point out the image is she's at battle, right? But a lot of it is battle with self, battle with wanting to leave old things behind, but those old things are very ingrained and they're very familiar, and therefore they give us an illusion of security or safety, but they are actually the ties that bind, okay? And that's essentially all of what we brought through so far is trying to say. All right, moving on to a oracle card. I pulled from a deck I haven't pulled from a very long time. The Oracle of the Seven Energies. I do have the guidebook here, holding it up for those of you watching on video. I am going to read out of this guidebook today for you. The card is a deep breath. And it kind of made me laugh after all of the things that came through with the Five of Swords. So it's card number 7. You can see there's a kind of an impression in the background of a face. It almost looks like a Buddha in some way. And there's a lotus, right? A deep breath. Now, right off the get-go, let's read our card. Let's look at the card. The colors, this kind of grayish white, almost heavenly kind of feel, gives the impression for me of air. We got breath, right? Air and sky and lightness, divine support, rising above, I feel. We think about the beliefs, the practices of Buddhist, a lot of that comes into play in this month with a deep breath. We are all connected message, right? We can rise above, we can go to our happy place in our minds, and we can remove ourselves from the current situation momentarily if we want to. There's the pause, right? And the respond rather than react. The lotus flower is so steeped in symbology. What's the saying? No lotus, no mud. No mud, no lotus. That's what it is. No mud, no lotus, meaning that the beauty of life, the lessons often come from the mud, the things that aren't always clear, right? We have to clear that muddy water in order to get to the transformation sometimes. And that's kind of speaking of this kind of mental back and forth, the mental battle I felt like we would be involved in, enmeshed in the month of September. So let's go to the guidebook. The key concepts of this oracle message is a genuine expectation of danger. Okay, interesting. That reminds me of just this defensiveness that came up with the Five of Swords. This, I'm in my head, it's me versus you, it's us versus them. This tendency to maybe be in that mindset this month. So there's this genuine expectation of danger. And I don't mean we're taking this as guidance, okay? I don't mean quite literal that anybody is in danger. It's more of a feeling like anticipating something, being on guard, right? Being defensive, potentially and most likely for I don't want to say no good reason to kind of be bypassing. That's not what I mean, but I mean feeling this in the absence of true danger. That's a good way to say it. Projection of a threat. There we go, the projection. I feel threatened. Something that I've heard, something that has been said to me, something that I'm feeling, something that I'm experiencing is tapping on a wound. I feel threatened, and then projecting it out, which really validates everything that came through with that last card. A threat without substance. Right? There's no real reason. It's feeling that threat in the absence of danger, right? Fight or flight mode. I think I used those words earlier in this episode. Inability to focus, trusting in the universe as a way to release fear. This is one of those themes I'm talking about. So yesterday, on the day I'm recording this, I posted a card on my Instagram feed. This one right here, this beautiful sunflower card that a listener sent me in the mail, this beautiful deck. I choose to release fear and trust myself in the process of life. Okay? That's a theme of our whole lives, but that's definitely a theme for this month. All right? I'm going to read directly from this beautiful guidebook. Fear is asking for your attention and healing right now. You or another are operating from the position of fear. If you also see red flags, you might be headed towards genuine danger, perhaps repeating a lesson you don't need to learn again. Remember, I saw the paper with like the test paper with the A+ on it, and I heard from Spirit, we don't need to do this again. We don't need to be involved in this drama. Okay, we've learned this lesson. Okay, you can honor this kind of fear by saying thank you and protect yourself by choosing another path. That's what you get when you go into observer mode, when you take a moment to pause and respond. In this moment, you have what it takes to make this shift. If, on the other hand, the fear surrounds the idea of taking a risk, be mindful. Radical trust and accepting the discomfort of the new is called for as you move out of your comfort zone. So that was kind of touched upon a little bit around the conversation that we spoke about with the difference between intuition and anxiety, right? It feels like, and really when you think about it, anxiety is anticipating a danger in the absence of danger. You are predicting an outcome that could be very, the projection itself could be really based in truth. It could be based in what has happened before, what you have experienced before. So have grace with yourself, right? And have compassion with yourself as you're navigating this. This is not easy. But do remind yourself this month of the differences between anxiety and intuition. Your intuition is wanting you to push. It's wanting you to take a risk and to move forward. Um, so when we practice kind of feeling into, is this my anxiety telling me not to do this, or is this my intuition telling me to do it? Right? Um, just practice with feeling in with that. What is something that keeps coming to you? What keeps coming in your mind? What keeps being on offer to you in your life? What are the conversations you're having? What are people talking about? Where's your mind going when it comes to new ideas or things you would like to do and move towards? This month, yesterday, I actually pulled a card for self and I posted it on my Instagram, and it was in keeping with the energy of September. And that card was the Page of Wands. And that card came through with this beautiful little affirmation of, I choose to release fear and trust myself in the process of life. And the Page of Wands was, hey, it's time to do the thing. It's time to move through the patterns and the conditioning. It's time to take a leap. It's time for new. And that's what September energy is all about for me personally. And then when we think about this lens of the season of Virgo and refinement, okay, so how, if we're getting very, very, very close to this new thing, to taking a leap, to doing the darn thing, what September is calling for us in order to do that in a more aligned way, to do the thing in a more aligned way and to be more present for it, is to refine what's keeping us from it. So all the drama, all this kind of stuff that floats underneath of the defensiveness of the spiraling, right, going down the rabbit hole but not the right rabbit hole, all of those things, the overthinking, the defensiveness, is what's keeping us. That's what wants to be refined this month. Okay, everything is kind of saying all of the same things. Ask for courage to take a leap into the unknown and know that all will be well. But I love how she says, but also know that all will be well doesn't necessarily mean all you have come to expect. So kind of get out of your way of the expectations you have about how it will turn out. Just trust that how it turns out, it will turn out how it's meant to turn out for you. Another really hard lesson to learn. Stories from the past may be molding your expectations right now. Yes, we have talked about that. And causing fear-based or anticipated hurt. Ding ding. Don't isolate yourself. There we go with the illusion of separation, or fall for the false idea that life is too painful and engaging with it should be avoided. Yeah, we don't want to do that. How about loving that side of you that is afraid, acting out, and causing all of this unnecessary commotion? You will never be happy if this small part of you controls your life, as it will if you allow it. However, remember to be gentle with yourself and others. Once you let go and relax into your life, everything looks brighter and friendlier. Today, choose love over fear, and you will be amazed with what you do. Okay, so I wanted to read that whole thing because I felt as if it was very relevant to everything that we have been talking about. I also just briefly wanted to share with you, as I end with that card, that this guidebook, this deck in particular, is kind of divided up into the elements. So there's some cards that are based in earth, some in air, some in fire, and some in water. And that card in particular, this number 7, a deep breath, is based in earth energy. Okay, and the key words for that, which I feel are relevant, because I feel like this is where you're going to see the most impact. Like, these are the areas of life that are going to be the most impacted by this energy of September, and that is money, family, inherited traits, but I will take that as a Freudian slip. So in traits and truths, survival, primitive instincts, security, stability, and the material world. All right. So it feels like a lot of this messaging will be steeped in experiences that you have, conversations that you have, growth that is needed, patterns that are coming to an end when it comes to our survival instincts, our conditioning with family and money, And yeah, our instincts, our fight or flight. That's really what's coming up with that as well. So I wanted to share that because I thought it was relevant. Okay, now let's talk about, this is going to be a long episode, but that's okay. We had a lot to chat about. Let's talk about the soul's journey lessons. So what is the whole point of all of this? We know what the point is, but what is the overall kind of big picture lesson that the soul is wanting us to learn with all of that information? And that is health. Now, health has been showing up a lot for me in my life, and just wanting to almost regain a sense of a feeling of control with my own health and how I have been feeling over the last decade with some different things that I've been going through, and just really wanting to take ownership of trying to come up with solutions or things to try versus waiting for somebody to pass me a magical pill that can fix all of my problems. There's some great pills and medication out there that fix our problems, so please don't take it that way. I mean, kind of personally stepping out of the victimhood of this has happened to me, and it has changed my life. Yes, it has. But are there things that I'm avoiding doing that could greatly improve my health and well-being? The answer is yes. And have I been doing them? The answer is not always, right? So that's kind of a hard truth, a question that I have been asking myself. This hard truth of like needing to step out of the defensiveness of the victim mindset of, this is happening to me versus, is this happening for me? If so, what is it trying to tell me? What are the challenges that I'm experiencing in my life, health or otherwise, trying to tell me? This is where our soul growth comes from. Our soul growth right now is around health. So we think about all of the things we've talked about, the fight or flight, the survival instincts, the feeling of separation of you versus me and us versus them. The feeling of I need to be on guard all the time. I need to watch my back. I need to project. I need to be defensive. All of this is affecting our health in huge ways. Main theme this month around this is how stress is affecting us. How stress is affecting us, whether the stress in our lives outside of us, the environmental stress, the stress that we have with other people and with the things we do and the work we do, but also the internal stress, the things that we kind of project and bring on, right? For instance, the spiraling, right? The one bad thing happens, I don't get enough sleep, and then I look for bad things all day long to support this narrative of today is a bad day, right? This is the way that we are being asked to think about the month of September, to take true ownership of how we look at life and how we look at ourselves and other people, how it affects our health. The card says, I will honor the physical vessel that enshrines my soul. A lot of us are now in a place of needing to connect more to our physical vessel. A lot of us, most of you who will be listening to this content, are very mental people. We're up here. It's very easy to get up into the upper chakras. Very easy to speak. It's very easy to think. It's very easy to go off into the ethers, right? And to the ether, rather, and to commune with spirit and to pick up on divine messages. But do we sometimes do that and avoid the physical? Being in the body, listening to the body. This is a time to get more in the body. As I'm saying this, I see this beautiful, huge, big oak tree. And just like, it must be hundreds of years old, just how big it is, and just, touching it and admiring it. And I don't know. I think this is a message to spend more time outside in nature, in the natural world. There's something about when you are in nature, right? When you are out in nature, there's a feeling of being like feeling smaller, like feeling as if you're just this one small speck in this huge world, which it sounds sometimes to the ego a little bit threatening. Like, what do you mean I'm only this small little speck in this huge ocean? But there's something about that feeling that actually makes us kind of exhale and feel like good. It almost feels like a release of the pressure of like, I need to be everything to everyone. No, I'm just this small speck in this huge world. I'm an important speck, right? I'm needed. I'm valuable. I need to be part of this big universe. However, the world is so much bigger than we are. And that in itself feels like release and freedom as well. So there is some invitation to spend some time outside. And this feeling of like wonder and whimsy is something that's been coming up a lot for me in my own world, from my own higher self and my guides. Like, hey, Amy, more whimsy, please. And then I ask myself, what does whimsy really mean? What does it mean to be whimsical? It's not just to be silly and to be lighthearted. For me, when I reflect on this question, I really feel that the answer to this is peace and its presence. It doesn't necessarily mean stillness, as sometimes we think peace means. It's just being present. It's in the moment. So an invitation for you that came up for me the other day was, what if you just it doesn't even have to be a whole day. It can just be like a half an hour of one day. What if you just did something without a plan? What if you just hopped in the car or on your bike or on the bus, or you just walked somewhere without knowing where you were going to go? And what if you just carved out 30 minutes, an hour, a couple hours, a day, if you're lucky, and you just went where you went and you saw what you saw and you discovered what you discovered? What was coming through from my guides around this is whimsy. This is like the ability to just kind of go without a plan sometimes, to stop in the moment. It's the essence of stopping and smelling the roses, right? Just to kind of be in awe of the magic that surrounds us. And I'm getting goosebumps as I say that, because they're reminding me of that image I just had, where the image I had when I saw this big tree. It was like I saw the big, huge 100-year-old, 500-year-old oak tree. And it was right in front of me, and it took up my whole view in my mind's eye. And then as I was speaking, it panned out. And it panned out so far that I saw this one oak tree, and then the rest was just this huge open space. And it was reminding me of like how big that oak tree looked when I was this close to it. It took up my whole view. But how when I panned out, I was able to see that that is only a speck, right? And I think what I feel, why that's coming in the moment, is for us to think about our current like issue or problem that we're having. When we're looking at it so closely, it feels like it takes up the whole view. It's our whole world. But when we pan out for a moment, when we observe for a moment, when we pause for a moment, we see just that it's a speck, and there's so much more. There's so much more. So I really, really love that. Thank you, Spirit. I love that. Okay, so now let's get into the last three compartments of this energy forecast, and that is a number support, an animal support, and a color support. I'll try to make these short and sweet, as we have spent a lot of time on the cards and the energy that's come through already. We're going to start with the animal, and this is so interesting to me because it comes through immediately in my mind's eye. And like last month, I feel last month we had an animal that I had never connected to before, and this month I'm also connecting to an animal that I've never connected before, and that is a weasel. So I see this, I hear this in my mind's eye. I'm going to take a moment and ask this energy what that means for us. What does that represent for us in the month of September? Interesting. They're kind of saying like, you know how the term, like when somebody weasels something, or weasel, I'm going to weasel, that weaseled in. I don't know if these are actual terms, but this is what I'm hearing. It's kind of like when something weasels in. It's like this feeling of something small, but okay, interesting. It's like something small that can also talking about termites. This is interesting. So maybe this is just like another analogy. A weasel is something small, but something that can like cause a bigger reaction or can cause a lot of damage. So then when I heard that, I immediately thought of, or I immediately had a termite come into my mind's eye, which, is a small little thing that can actually destroy a home if you had termites in your home. So it's like a little small thing that creates a big, huge thing. So the weasel comes in with this feeling of there may be some little, they feel big to us in the moment, but if we panned out their specs, challenges, issues, problems that we're having this month. And it's kind of like if we feed it, if we it's the remember the wolf that you have two wolves. Remember that analogy of like you have two wolves inside of you, and the wolf that kind of grows, the wolf that wins, so to speak, is the one you feed. It's that kind of energy. So we've got this weasel that feels like a sweet little animal. It feels like I don't want to do all this damage, but I'm trying to get your attention. There's something that's weaseling. It's like this feeling of something niggling. When you have, okay, this is what it means. This is what they're telling me. It's about instincts and trusting your instincts so that you don't repeat patterns. So say you have this history, this relationship history, where it seems like every relationship you're in, romantically, or maybe it's friendship wise, or, maybe it's, with self, doesn't matter. But you just see this pattern kind of play out and you're like, oh, I keep going after the same type of people. And the result is always the same. And your instincts, so maybe now you're single and you've got that behind you in your peripheral. Is that how you say it? In your back pocket. You've got all this experience behind you and you can see it clearly. But there's somebody new that enters your life now and you're noticing your instincts are saying, there's some red flags here. This is familiar to you. This is exciting to you. But could it be because you are so familiar with that, type of person or that level of energy, say? Are you addicted to the trauma? Are you addicted to that pattern? Is that what keeps you going? Could these people keep coming to your life because they're trying to shine a mirror on what it is that you're trying to let go? So the weasel is the things that come in this month that show us the bigger picture. So the triggers, the little niggle, the little red, picture a weasel with the red flag, okay? This month where you're like, this is hitting on something. Take a moment with it. Try not to other yourself. Try not to, get all in your head and judge yourself and catastrophize. Okay. There's a gut instinct in here and I need to listen to it. I need to listen to myself. I need to break this pattern. I need to be done with this. That's what the weasel's trying to teach us this month. So thank you, weasel, because honestly, it's like I can understand why the energy that came through with this was, hey, I have good intentions. I know I'm kind of like a pest, or I seem like a pest because I'm hitting on your wounds. And by doing so, that, if you're not listening, that can cause a lot of damage. Think the termite in the house. However, I'm here to show you what those things are. I'm here to show you what is damaging your house. I'm here to show you where you need refinement. I'm here to show you what to repair. So think about the triggers that you may have this month. About that, around that is what I mean to say. Okay, let's go. Number. Interesting. Okay, I'm just going to go with it. We got to go with the first thing that comes in. Got 88. It stopped me in my tracks for a moment because last month we had 818. By the way, I saw that constantly in the month of August. Did you? Did you see it all the time? Even on the last day of August, just a couple of days ago, August 31st, I woke up, I was sleeping. I woke up, I sat up, picked up my phone. Guess what time it was? 8:18 a.m. Took a picture because I thought that was definitely a little nod on the last day of August to give me 818. So we had 818 last month. This month we have 88. What is this trying to say? What's with all the 8, Spirit? Okay, we're seeing 88s. They represent, well, we know they represent like feeling of infinity. 8 does, right? Goes on and, oh, there's another song in my head now. You may be too young for this, but if you're anywhere near my generation, which is in the 40s, you may remember a show, and I can't remember what it's called, but there was a puppet named Lamb Chop. The reason I'm bringing this up is because there was a song, and if I start singing it, you will be very annoyed with me, but it's called The Song That Never Ends. So I'll leave it with that. But yeah, there's this song that never ends. Okay, so that comes in with this message about 88. So it's like things that keep us looped. This is a twofold message. The 88 stands for the infinity, the interconnectivity of all things, the illusion of separation, that we actually are all connected, which is a beautiful message and may help us step out of that othering that we like to do from time to time. And it also represents a loop, right? And think about like a mental loop or a pattern or a cycle, and we're just kind of going around the loop over and over and over again. We don't know how to get off of this racetrack. We're just on it over and over again. It represents that as well. Okay, so when we see variations of the number 8, especially if we see 88 or 888 somewhere, we're going to take that as a nod to we're going to take a minute is what I'm hearing, and we're going to ask ourselves what we were just thinking about, what we were just doing, what we were just saying, what we were just reading or watching, and we are going to see if that is connected to did I just do something different? Did I just respond in a different way? Did I just think about something differently than I would have before? Kind of like getting off the loop, getting off the track, breaking the cycle. That's what 88 is this month. So thank you so much for that. And our color comes in very clearly. It is royal blue, and it's very specific that it's royal blue. Okay, so this, let's stay with this for a moment. So blue, we know that blue often gives us a feeling of like serenity and calm, and that's why we use those colors in places that we want to feel that more, and we might gravitate towards that color in our decor or our wardrobe, but we can also think about it in our mind's eye when we want to go to a place that is more calm. Okay, and the royal color is about, they're saying the royal you, the royal you. The royal you is royal blue. It's kind of like you need to start thinking about yourself as important and vital. You may just be a speck, but you're an important speck. Kind of what I hear. So we are asking, and this has to do with this health card, okay? Prioritizing self and making sure that you are taken care of, making sure that you are not sabotaging yourself in some way or putting yourself last or telling yourself you don't deserve to be treated well. I feel like this is in direct connection to that message around repeating patterns in relationships and things. And the weasel's like, hey, by the way, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. We said we weren't going to do this again, right? This color is saying, hey, you are royal, you are divine, you are magic. Start treating yourself that way. Start treating, you deserve it. You deserve it. Well, this was a long one, but a worthy one. A lot of good stuff came in. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know how you have been, if you would like, and let me know how this podcast episode resonated with you. I love receiving emails and DMs about things that come through in these energy forecasts and people going, oh my God. So just last month, I was talking at the beginning about connecting to animals and connected to somebody who had a spirit guide come in that was an animal, and it was a cow. She gave the name Daisy. And a listener in the UK sent me a message like, I'm just listening to your podcast on the way home from work, and I went and I picked up a pop to drink on my way home. It was like a Friday night or something. And she's like, look, she's like, I laughed because you had just finished talking about Daisy, and it was a Coke bottle and the name on it was Daisy. So please, if you have cool things to share with me or ways in which the information that comes through on this podcast resonates with you, I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you back here next week. Take care. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider hopping on over to wherever you listen to your podcast and giving it a 5-star review. Thank you so much in advance. If you'd like to keep in touch, please head over to my website, theintuitiverising.com, to keep up with all the things that I have been doing. I also have a private Facebook community for people just like you. It's called the Intuitive Rising Community. All you gotta do is request to join, and I will let you in. Keep rising.